diocese, I want to show some key movements in the All Things New process. I'm going to share some data about the Isanti area Catholic community, provide some information regarding appeals if people are interested in that, and then answer some other questions that were submitted. I did receive several questions this past week, and I hope to answer most of those in this presentation. So our current reality. Actually, you know what? Next section. This is an easy one. I won't. So our current reality, when we looked at some of our data, when Bishop Pat came to the Diocese of St. Cloud, we knew that we were going to have to look at some of our current realities, some of our numbers. And so we hired a company, Emmaus Partners, in 2024 to help us with some of the data and to look at, and to analyze some of the data of our diocese. So the next few slides are going to be primarily diocesan numbers, and I want to give you the big overall picture. Our numbers for our sacraments have declined. All of our sacraments have declined in the last years. Baptisms have declined 40%, 44%. Weddings have declined 45%. Funerals have declined 12% since 2010. In 2015, when we look at our official Catholic directory, you're going to notice that these are U.S. dioceses that have more parishes than active priests. In 2015, we had 75 parishes more than we have priests. When I looked at our 2024 numbers for the official Catholic directory, we had 82. That last section on the bottom, somebody asked, well, what does that mean? Well, we are fourth in the nation. We have more parishes than active priests. When we look at our region, which is Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota, we have almost over twice as many parishes in all of our region than any of the other dioceses. Our Catholic population in the state of Minnesota in 2007, we were at 28% in our state. In 2024, that number went to 18%. The number of unaffiliated, and what that means is number of people that aren't affiliated to any religious organization in the state of Minnesota. In 2017, that was 13%. Now it's at 29%. When we look at our diocese, in 1999, our Catholic population was 145,000. Today, it's at 110. We have lost over 35,000 people across the Diocese of St. Cloud. When we look at the percent of Catholics in our diocese, in 2010, we were at 22%, and now we're at 16%. So everything has declined. When we looked at some of those numbers, we knew that we needed to do something. The company that we said, if we continue on this trajectory, we are going to continue to decline. The numbers show it. So when we began to look at what do we want to do different, these are our guiding principles that we came up with as a diocese through lots of different councils. It was our pastoral planning council, our presbyteral council, our ecumenic, another council, some of our staff. I've had conversations when we began to talk about these guiding principles. First and foremost, who do we want to be? Missionary disciples. Everything that we do is about being a disciple of Christ in our world today. That's the umbrella under which everything that we do falls. Sacramental life. I just shared with you that some of our numbers, all of our numbers in sacraments have declined. We want to increase those numbers. We want a strong sacramental life within the Diocese of St. Paul. We want to change that direction. We want to engage laity. One of the things, when Bishop Neary was first here, we had meetings we called pastoral visits with the bishop, and we met once a month with different groups of ACCs. One of the things that we heard during those meetings was we have a hard time getting volunteers. We have a hard time maintaining what we do. Engaging the laity is one of the things, one of our guiding principles. We want to change that. We want to have engaged people across our churches. Listening as a way of being church. The synodal process started with Pope Francis. He was very strong in wanting to listen to people. Pope Leo is the same. We want to engage that process in our diocese as well. Prudent stewardship. We know we need to be good stewards of all of our resources. Our properties, our buildings, our finances, and our human resources, including our priests and staff. So those were the guiding principles that as we look at this all things new process that are guiding what we're trying to accomplish as we plan. Oops, forget to do this, sorry. Go backwards. There it is. And I'm going to start talking about the plan here in a little bit, but I want to talk about the parameters. The parameters are the box that we asked all of our area Catholic communities to look at in putting together a plan. These parameters included accessibility to Sunday liturgy and sacraments, budgeted ministries, buildings, pastors and priests, governance, and finances. We had several parameters under each of those categories. If you want to know more about what those parameters are, we do have a guidebook that is online that you can see the details of those parameters. I'm going to speak to some of those parameters as we look through some of the slides. One of the questions that came up was, if we make all of the parameters, why are we closing the building? The parameters were really never meant to function as a guarantee that any building would or would not remain open. They're really created to start a conversation. It's about long-term sustainability of our communities and the overall health and vitality of our parish life, as well as our staff and the well-being of our priests. So it's not a guarantee when we look at these started the conversation. And it's just one part of a broader context in discernment process. When we make some decisions, it's about the community health and trends, some of our pastoral realities, which I shared with you, are in decline, looking at our stewardship, financial and facilities, and long-term planning. So again, these parameters are not a given in these conversations, but they are to help us discern sustainability and health. Okay, so one of the parameters under governance is reducing the number of corporations. And across the diocese, we are asking all of our ACCs to reduce the number of corporations. The question is, why? Why do we want to merge parishes? We're merging parishes for a stronger pastoral ministry, providing additional opportunities for all parishioners in our area, to use our staff better, for greater collaboration between our parishes, to be able to hire staff that we might not have been able to do previously, and to reduce the administration of the pastor. There are several places across our diocese where we are asking currently it's not asking, it's required. Each parish is required to have a finance council. There are several of our ACCs that are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 parishes. For the pastor to go to all of those meetings is difficult. And we're hearing that from our clergy. So part of this is to reduce the number of meetings, to reduce the administration of the pastor. We are not going to get more priests. We are going to remain stable, but in the next year, right now, we have 5 priests that are over the age of 70. And next, in 2027, we're looking at several other retirements. That'll be more than what we have for newly ordained. So we're really looking at the workload of our pastors. One of the parameters is looking at 50% of your workload in administration or less. Some of our pastors are doing 70 to 80% of their ministry in administration, which can be given to somebody else. One of the questions regarding financial stability, reducing duplicate costs, moving from maintenance to mission, and closer alignment to canon law. So the foundation of canon law, and Father Craig can say more about this, is there's an understanding in canon law that it's one pastor for one parish and one church. Thank you. So it's a one-to-one-to-one. Right now, we are nowhere near that. And so to reduce and merge our parishes is to come closer to that one-to-one-to-one ratio. So a couple of people asked about what does that mean for paperwork and process. The diocese will be handling the paperwork, the process. We are hiring a lawyer to help us, a civil lawyer to help us with the civil mergers. And our thing is helping write the canonical mergers. There are 2 mergers that happen, a canonical merger and a civil merger. And yes, we are using the same lawyer that has the same format to look at all of the statutes and requirements that it takes in the state of Minnesota. And he's familiar with that. He helps the Archdiocese, some of the mergers in the Archdiocese of Minneapolis-St. Paul. He's done other corporate mergers as well, and so that is the gentleman that we are going to be using. Yes, and the diocese is also paying for the lawyer fees in that, for the mergers. Another question that came up was, what does this mean for envelopes? And can you have a single envelope? Do we need to use a single envelope or different color envelopes? Those are some of the things that are asked across the diocese. We are recommending the single envelope, but you don't have to do it that way. We are asking to have money in basically one account, but there are lots of ways that you can budget items and line items for each particular church. Maintenance for this particular church, or whatever it is. So there are ways to delineate the budget to separate out the different expenses in the different locations. Okay. Finances. So a couple of people asked some questions around transparency, around the money, and what does that look like? A couple of people asked about the individual budget items in each parish. And I guess I want to remind people that these are the expectations around finances. Yes, 100% you have every right to understand how the parish money is being used and the overall health. And it's very reasonable to ask questions about money. This could include what the annual income is, the expenses, key ministry spending, building and maintenance costs, not in this case a school, but ministry or school subsidies, and what we have for debt. Those are very reasonable questions. It is the role of the Finance Council, however, to look at individual budget items. And we're not going to hand out the individual budget items to parishioners in general. They review and recommend the annual budget. They monitor the finances in parish audits. They help ensure accountability and transparency, and they advise the pastor on major financial decisions. So those questions lie within the Finance Council. All things new. We have started the All Things New, like I mentioned earlier. We have started that process in 2024, actually. And a year ago, in March of 25, like literally a year ago, I asked all of our pastors across the diocese to form All Things New committees. And everybody did. And they were tasked with creating a plan for each area Catholic community based on the guiding principles that I just shared and parameters. That conversation, that team has had conversations. They've been at deanery meetings. They've talked with other ACC committees. They have met countless hours, countless time this last year. Their task was to submit a plan. And they did. We had 100% of the plans in by January of 26. Some turned them in early. This group has worked hard. They've prayed together. They've been diligent. They've looked at some of the numbers. They've looked at some of the finances. And they came to us with a plan, or in some cases, multiple plans. Each area Catholic community was asked to use some kind of consultation. Some across the diocese did town halls. Others had surveys. Others had individual conversations. Every area Catholic community had some kind of consultation, and they did it a little bit different. I don't know exactly what this ACC did, but it was part of the expectation. Once the plan was submitted, then the CAP, which is the Committee for the Affirmation of Plans, reviewed that plan with the committee and amended plans if needed, and affirmed a particular plan to move forward in the process. The CAP started meeting of June of last summer, and we started reviewing plans in September of 2025. We finished reviewing plans the end of January of 26. So we've been looking and talking and discerning for over 6 months. Those plans that went forward to the Presbyteral Council. The conversations at the Presbyteral Council are primarily only about the mergers of the parishes across the diocese. What we're anticipating now is that soon the communication is going to go out about a diocesan plan. When all of the plans that came in, part of putting all of those pieces together, very soon you're going to hear the whole plan that hasn't been announced yet, but it is multiple mergers across our diocese. And those decrees for those mergers are going to be issued soon, like really soon. And then in May of 2026 through 2028, the parish mergers are going to be implemented. We'll probably have to do some of those in bunches or phases because like I said, our finance department is going to be involved in that. I'll have a lawyer that's going to be involved in that, so we're going to have a different timeline for different churches or different parishes. I want to iterate that the decrees for church buildings proposed to be relegated for secular use, which would be closed, will come at a later date. Most likely starting in the fall. Maybe sooner for some. There might be a few. But every ACC is going to be on a different timeline when it comes to relegating a church for secular use. Some area Catholic communities have weddings on the books already, and they want to stay open for that. Some are celebrating the 100-year anniversary, and so they want to stay open for that. And so there are different timelines for each area Catholic community. So part of my job is asking this question: what is the best for the whole area, and what is the best for our whole diocese? There are some people who have asked about sending in different proposals than what has already been offered. And as you can see from our timeline, the conversation for those proposals was last year. We are already starting to move into the next phase of this process. Right now, we are moving through the mergers. Bishop Neary sat in on most of the CAP meetings and is familiar with the conversations, the church buildings, which will become primary or partner or church buildings. I want to say, right now, until the decrees are out, there are no final decisions. But some regarding the mergers are very close. Another question that I received was, beyond this merger or closure, what are other plans or intentions does the diocese have for our ACC? And I would want to respond to that by saying, that's part of pastoral planning. This is the step for today. We're always asking, what is God's will for us at this time and in this moment, and putting together a strategic plan. When we put together a strategic plan, we have focused ministries, focused ideas, focused mission. It's always about our pastoral needs, our demographic changes, the resources that we have available, and our current proposal focuses solely on the ministry moving forward at this time and in this place. What does that look like 5 years from now? I don't know the answer to that. What does that look like 10 years from now? I don't know the answer to that. And we're always asking that question as we move forward. In this process, we've used data, we've used consultation, we've used information about our parishes, we've heard from different groups, and so in this step, at this time, in this place, Bishop is asking for mergers and reducing the number of corporations. Okay, so here's some Isanti numbers. Isanti, Cambridge, writing numbers. So after all of that, what's happening here in this ACC? Clearly, in the last 25 plus years, you have had a huge increase in population across these 3 towns. You have increased your population by 260%. That's amazing. I mean, that's like Cambridge, that's double the population that you had 25 years ago. In Isanti, that's like 3 times as much. So you've had people move into this area recently. At the same time, the Catholic population has declined. In 1999, in Graham, you had 579 people, which is 53, like half of the town was Catholic. It's amazing. In Cambridge, 1,300 people. Isanti, almost 900 people. 75, almost 75%, 74% of the population in Isanti was Catholic. This is where it gets a little maybe sad, depressing. Sorry. When we look at the numbers now, again, 25, just shy of 25 years, we have 59% less Catholic people in this area. On this picture, map, there you go. On this map, on the right-hand side, is where our parishioners live in the Isanti area Catholic community. We are moving ahead with this plan. Merging 3 parishes into one to look at sustainability of the Catholics in this area. Our goal is for a strong, unified parish community across 3 towns. Each location carries different realities, including facility condition, the number of facilities, long-term maintenance costs, accessibility, projected population trends, etc. This is not about choosing winners or losers. This is going back to the question about how do we serve all of the people in this area, and what best aligns with our mission. The seating capacity of each of these three churches: Elizabeth Ann Seton has 530, Christ the King is at 384, Saints Peter and Paul 363. Your seating capacity as a whole is 1284. The number of parishioners that you have in this area Catholic community is 1165. If every single person went to Mass, you would still have room. Your Mass counts, and I just took October to be consistent. Just in 20 years, you have over half the number of people coming to Mass in the last 20 years. The October 25 Mass count was 641. When you look at just the numbers, you really only need 2 Masses in this area. This is significant. This is a hard thing to see. It's a hard thing. This is not any different than other area Catholic communities across our diocese. We have to be realistic about what we need to do next. One of the parameters is accessibility to the Eucharist. We want all of our people to be able to meet, to see Jesus within 20 minutes. We don't think that 20 minutes is an unreasonable amount of time to drive to go to church. When you look at this map, all of our parishes, all of our churches are within that 20-minute mark of other churches. And I'm also including those that are not in our diocese. All of that being said, we are looking at some significant changes across our diocese. The first step in that is several parish mergers across our diocese. The decrees, again, are going to be coming out very soon, within the next weeks, months, for each area Catholic community. I'm going to hand this over to